So YouTube suggested this video to me about a professional sports bettor called Vegas Dave this week. So I clicked on it.
Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be rich and famous. Now that I have success, of course I have haters. They call me obnoxious, a narcissist, that I'm rude, I'm a scam, I'm a fraud. But they don't know me or why I do what I do. Am I confident? Yes.
So after watching the start of it, I just knew that I had to share this with you guys as a reaction video from somebody who has made a living from sports betting for over a decade now. Let's watch a little bit more.
I'm the best in the world at what I do. But while I was betting and breaking records, I could never predict what was about to happen to me next.
Bold claim. Right, now at this point, I've got to be honest with you, I'm thinking straight away, this guy has got to be a scammer, but there's some bold claims in there. The fact that he's won $2.5 million on a bet and sort of features in the news there, along with various other stuff. So, you know, I'm going to give this guy a bit of a chance. I want to see what his story's about. This has definitely piqued my interest. But why he's throwing money around on stage, I don't know. Doesn't really seem like somebody who's quite risk averse, strategic, and, you know, a professional bettor.
Take one.
Yes. Out of anything in my life, if I died, I had to do my own eulogy and talk about the most memorable part of my life was the Royals.
The 1-2 again.
Now, speaking of money, here's a guy that does it for a living. Not just because he likes someone or a hunch, he's serious. Vegas Dave Wancha came to fame and fortune throwing down $100,000 future bets on the Kansas City Royals.
Right, hold up, hang on. So, fair play, he's made $2.5 million on that bet. I don't see how that could be untrue. I mean, the news is covering it. This guy's endorsing it from the news. Obviously, creating this video, these guys have put this at the beginning. I thought it was a little bit strange that he mentioned the fact that if he was doing his own eulogy, and maybe that's just a way of overviewing his life. Seems a little bit narcissistic, along with a few other things in the intro there. But futures bets, that's the first thing that's got me here. This guy is betting on futures bets for $100,000 at a time. So I'm initially thinking, you know, is this A, luck, or is it B, he knows something on the inside, and it was, you know, it's kind of down the fixing route, the route of people who set things up to ensure that they win a huge amount. It doesn't seem something that a shrewd full-time sports bettor would do. And I've just noticed along the bottom there as well, there's some stuff about selling picks. Maybe we'll look at that in a moment. But you don't put 100 grand down on a futures bet where the over-round margins, or the VIG if you're in the US, is huge on those kind of bets. So the juice incorporated into those kind of bets from sports books, if they'll even take a bet of that size, in the modern world a lot of them won't, unless you're a complete degenerate anyway. Yeah, it doesn't seem to add up, but we'll see.
To win the World Series. That brought him $2.5 million.
I can predict the future. Just, I have a gift.
Vegas Dave is one of the most successful sports bettors in Vegas, and now he's the winner of a historic $2.5 million payout.
Kansas City Royals 2015, I bet a little over $100,000 for them, paid $2.5 million. After the Royals, I bet Holly Holm to upset Ron.
I mean, can't take it away from him, but he can predict the future. Wow. It's not the type of things a pro would say.
Ronda Rousey, $20,000 to win $220,000. And a few months after that, I went against Holly Holm, and I bet Misha Tate to beat Holly Holm to cash out $300,000. I had the Broncos to win the Super Bowl, a little over $100,000.
Hang on, hold up. To cash out, I don't know. So he cashed out of a sports book. So he's got the VIG on that twice, or the over-round on that twice. So they put the margin on the bet in the first place, for anybody who's unaware, which means that he's got to beat that margin to find value on his sports bets if he's doing this professionally, and then to cash out means that he's applying that margin on the bet again something that doesn't seem like something a professional would do. But I'm intrigued by this, probably like many other viewers are, in the fact that how's he got all this money then?
Paid $2.3 million. I broke every single record. Biggest payout in baseball, biggest payout in football, biggest payout in UFC.
And also, this seems like, you know, the traditional media kind of hype. He's talking about all his biggest payouts. He's not talking about value or variance or finding an edge into the future and how that's done. I appreciate this, you know, this is kind of like a bit of a documentary by the looks of it. It's 2 hours long, we're not going to go through the whole thing. But to focus on breaking records, big wins, you know, Ferrari, throwing money around, I'm surprised that this guy isn't selling crypto or something, to be honest. But, you know, he's got a lot of news, credible news sources there, mainstream media featuring him as the winner. The thing that I'm really wondering here is, how many times has this guy lost? How many times has he lost a $100,000 bet to win that 2.5 million? Now look, at this point I think we all realise who Dave says he is, but I'm starting to doubt it. So if we look at his website first, you can see that straight away, you know, it's all about the social status and the Ferrari and the featured in the news, which is probably not an easy thing to do. So all credit to him, he's got on the news there. He has won that large bet. I reckon that's probably the reason that he's got on the news. He uses this YouTube video to feature himself as some other kind of endorsement. Again, more pictures of him throwing money around. But then down the bottom here, you start to see what I've begun to feel it's really about: selling picks for huge amounts of money. He doesn't need many sales to get quite a nice lifestyle out of that at $2,000. So I want to dive deeper and see who Vegas Dave really is here. Now, a quick bit of Googling and I found this article courtesy of Forbes, where it says, meet Vegas Dave, a sports gambling hustler who just sold the most expensive baseball card in history for $3.9 million. Another reason that could be behind this wealth and all this perceived lifestyle. It's an in-depth article from Will Yakovitz there, good article, well worth reading, but it basically starts to say Dave sold this card for $3.9 million and he's got a history of doing it on various rare sports betting cards. Again, it references his history, which he's actually mentioned within that video on YouTube, which is totally reasonable, so it's obviously true. You know, he's won a couple of $1 million several times on various sports bets, although he doesn't talk about the fact that he has lost large amounts of money, something that is briefly mentioned in the documentary later on, where it says,
I won some, lost some, but within 3 weeks, I was down 868,000.
Now, going back to this article, something else that I found a little bit strange was they said that Vegas Dave doesn't keep records. Now look, if you're a professional sports bettor, you are meticulous at keeping records and setting baselines, understanding where you are in terms of finding value, where the value is, so you can go back and, you know, basically milk that situation again and again. Also, despite him saying that he doesn't keep records, he keeps a pretty big record of how much he's won on that particular documentary. He just doesn't seem to keep records of his losers, which is another red flag when it comes to somebody who's trying to sell $2,000 picks package. Now, I don't want to give him too much of a hard time, but things really picked up when I got further down this article. Vegas Dave says sports betting companies ban him, which is very true and is a very credible thing if you are a winner, much like they do in casinos, throw card counters out. But it also highlights the fact that the FBI were already looking into Vegas Dave for multiple potential crimes long before the casino refused his bets.
Gate has since changed their policy on accepting extreme odds and repeat bets.
The Westgate, which is the biggest, supposedly the biggest sportsbook in Las Vegas, no longer will take my bets.
So it sounds like the real reason that the sportsbooks wouldn't take his bets was because he was already being looked into by the FBI for multiple felonies, up to a list of 19 there at the time, including things like using other people's social security numbers to place wagers and avoiding tax process. Not quite the way round that he explains it in that documentary there. Eventually he took a plea deal, submitting the £500,000 payout so he could keep his freedom. And also the article goes on to mention the fact that in the past he has been caught out selling counterfeit baseball cards for up to $18,000. Which surprisingly ties up with his own view of himself being much like the Wolf of Wall Street, just on a far smaller scale.
In the first week, I closed like 8 loans and people were like, what the f***? It's like the Wolf of Wall Street where people put their phones down and they start listening.
However, there's a twist here, because if you skip forward further into that documentary a little bit later on, there's a segment where he shows us how much money he's making from these picks. Let's take a look at this.
These are all $99. $4.99, $4.99, $4.99. So $869 in one day. That's a pretty damn good day.
So there you have it, $340,000 in one day, and I suspect feeding his own gambling habit in the process. Not quite the professional gambler that he liked to make out to be earlier on. Currently it looks like he's turned to crypto, as you can see on his website here, the only form of payment that he'll take. Not quite the salesman that he thought he was either.
What's up guys, Vegas Dave. I'm gonna give you the simple steps of how to make money with me today. First of all, you have to have a crypto account. I only accept crypto. I don't take credit cards. I don't take PayPal. I don't take Venmo.